fellow Americans, we're here today doing a tier breakdown. I thought today, in honor of Trump just finishing his second time doing 100 days in his second term. I didn't say that right, whatever. I thought I would go through the best, the worst, all of the moments from Trump's presidency. Where I want to start off is his announcement speech for presidency. Now, I remember back in the day, because, you know, first time around when Trump went into office, I was all on board for Trump. I thought he was really going to be the guy that was going to drain the swamp, really fuck shit up. You know, this day and age, fast forwarding, you know, almost 10 years later, that's not at all the case. But I remember really being all aboard in Trump. That's not really the case anymore. Not at all the case anymore, actually. And we're going to get into that as we go through his moments. But I thought, you know, there's so many things that this man has, so many just crazy moments from this guy, from his presidencies, both terms, that I thought, why not? Let's go through it. So, first one, Trump's, and let's just play this clip before we even put it in. Trump's announcement to run for president. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. Let's play this.
So, I've watched the politicians. I've dealt with them all my life. If you can't make a good deal with a politician, then there's something wrong with you. You're certainly not very good. And that's what we have representing us. They will never make America great again. They don't even have a chance. They're controlled fully. They're controlled fully by the lobbyists, by the donors, and by the special interests, fully. They control them. Hey, I have lobbyists, I have to tell you. I have lobbyists that can produce anything for me. They're great. But you know what? It won't happen. It won't happen. Because we have to stop doing things for some people, but for this country, it's destroying our country. We have to stop, and it has to stop now. Now, our country needs a truly great leader. And we need a truly great leader now. We need a leader that wrote The Art of the Deal. We need a leader that can bring back our jobs, can bring back our manufacturing, can bring back our military, can take care of our vets. Our vets have been abandoned. And we also need a cheerleader. You know, when President Obama was elected, I said, well, the one thing I think he'll do well, I think he'll be a great cheerleader for the country. I think he'd be a great spirit. He was vibrant. He was young. I really thought that he would be a great cheerleader. He's not a leader, that's true. You're right about that. But he wasn't a cheerleader. He's actually a negative force. He's been a negative force. He wasn't a cheerleader. He was the opposite. We need somebody that can take the brand of the United States and make it great again. It's not great again. We need somebody. We need somebody that literally will take this country and make it great again. We can do that. And I will tell you, I love my life. I have a wonderful family. They're saying, Dad, you're going to do something that's going to be so tough. You know, all of my life I've heard that a truly successful person, a really, really successful person, and even modestly successful, cannot run for public office. Just can't happen. And yet that's the kind of mindset that you need to make this country great again. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Yeah, so that's I don't know if I've actually gone through the whole thing. I'll throw in B tier. And here's why, cuz I think, you can tell that he is truly almost kind of spitballing in that. He said make America great again like at least 5 or 7 times in that speech. But there's something really interesting about first of all, he just looks so much younger. Like, holy shit. If you look at him from that then to now, like, they always say that the president ages someone. And, I think a lot of people, including myself, was like, Trump, he's so like superficial in himself that like it's almost impossible to see him get to that point, even as a president. It clearly has over the last 9 years. Or 10, I guess maybe this was in 2015, so maybe 10 years from this point. But I mean, that all that aside, he really did like. I mean, I saw this video one time where like he intentionally spoke at like a 3rd to 5th grade reading level, and it's because like, for better or worse, Americans are stupid. Americans are idiots, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it is. They're fucking idiots. So to see this, so just to see him make this speech like this, really kind of attests to that. Look, he's a salesman, right? And he really did sell the pitch of like, this country isn't great, it sucks, and I'm gonna make it great again. I mean, he said like I said it 5 times. And look, I mean, when he went into this race, I mean, it's really weird thinking back because like people actually really like liked him. Like, not even like people like me back then, like the corporate press, like Jimmy Fallon had him on, and like all these people, right? Like they were almost like making it because they didn't think he was actually gonna win, right? But then as soon as he started actually getting support, when he actually started getting polling at 40% or whatever, people started freaking out. So I just thought that was a really funny moment. Okay, next moment is from I think it's his first debate. The Rosie O'Donnell call out.
One of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
Look, come on. And she's pissed.
Thank you.
I gotta put it in S tier. Like, come on. His comedic brilliance. This was why they stopped having crowds at the debates. Because of this man. Because he would get the crowd so riled up. Like, this is the thing that, like I don't even know about any. I think maybe he's fallen off this and aged out a little bit. He's become too much part of the machine to really have this ability anymore. But like, this is kind of what I was saying with the first clip. Like, he had this ability to get the crowd. Like, he read the crowd when somebody in the crowd shouted something, he actually responded to it. If any other presidential candidate like got up there and somebody shouts, they would just ignore it. They would just blow right through it. And then they would say thank you and walk off stage. Trump was not like this. He was completely different. So, I mean, from skill alone, from a comedic standpoint, I have to put this in S tier. I'm sorry. I have to put this in S tier. All right. Let's do this Trump and Jeb Bush clip.
The problem is...
This moment. Which is just hilarious.
We need toughness. Honestly, I think Jeb is a very nice person. He's a very nice person, but we need tough people. We need toughness. We need intelligence, and we need tough. Jeb said when they come across the southern border, they come as an act of love.
You said in September 30th that ISIS was not a
am I
not
talking or are you talking, Jeb?
I'm talking right now. I'm talking.
You can go back. You're not talking. You interrupted me,
September 30th,
Jeb. Are you going to
you said
apologize, Jeb? No. Am I allowed to finish?
Yeah, one at a time.
Excuse
Go ahead,
me. Am I allowed to finish?
Go ahead, Mr. Trump. So,
Little of your
Again,
own medicine there.
I
Donald.
know you're trying to
Governor
build
Bush,
up your energy,
please,
Jeff, but it's not working
one at
very
a time.
well.
Yeah.
Look. We need a toughness. We need strength. We're not respected
Jeb is just
as a
like,
nation anymore. We don't have that level of respect that we need. And if we don't get it back fast, we're just going to go weaker, and just disintegrate. We can't allow that to happen. We need strength. We don't have it. When Jeb comes out and he talks about the border, and I saw it, and I was witness to it, and so was everyone else, and I was standing there, they come across as an act of love. He's saying the same thing right now with radical Islam. And we can't have that in our country. It just won't work. We need strength.
Governor Bush.
Donald, you're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen. And I do have the strength. Leadership is not about attacking people and disparaging people. Leadership is about creating a serious strategy to deal with the threat of our time. And I laid out that strategy before the attacks in Paris and before the attacks in San Bernardino, and it is the way the way forward. We need to increase our military spending. We need to deal with a no-fly zone in Syria, a safe zone. We need to focus on building a military that is second to none so that we can destroy Islamic terrorism.
With Jeb's attitude, we will never be great again. That I can tell you.
I mean, look, I think Trump did a very good job in that exchange, like saying, "Hey, you're like calling him out. I'm like, hey, you're interrupting me, motherfucker." And like that's something like he has actually been pretty consistent on in terms of like actually being like, excuse me. Like it really does show, like it really does kind of break that wall of like the political discourse, right? That being said, I don't like his remarks on like, we need to get rid of radical Islam. Like, look, I'm not a fan of radical Islam by any means, but it's definitely a slippery slope when you start saying we need to get rid of this. It's like, okay, who are you like? What are you talking about? Are you talking about you need to, ban the religion? You need to get rid of the people? Like, there's obviously a lot. Like, when you're just authoritatively saying that, there's a lot of question marks. That being said, I think it's a pretty hilarious moment where, Jeb Bush basically told him, you're not going to be able to bully your way to the presidency, and he literally did. So I'll throw an A tier, right? A lot of these early Trump moments, I think, kind of just belong in A tier. That's kind of, although I think the order of this got a little fucked up, so we might have to go back. But okay, let's play this clip from Trump, and actually no, we gotta do the fucker in the pussy, or grab her by the pussy clip. Because come on, I mean, however you feel about this.
Moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it. I did try and fuck her. She was married.
Huge news there.
No, Nancy. Yeah. No, this was marriages, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there, and she was married. Then all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Pull the ham.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out.
I'm sorry. I gotta put that in S tier. It became a meme, bro. It became a fucking meme, okay? He literally, the guy who is photoshopped in this image, like, literally went on cable news, found every station, fucking started saying this shit. Fuck her right in the pussy. And look, sure, it's definitely derogatory. It's definitely objectifying to women. But again, like the fucking Rosie, it's fucking hilarious. You have to put an S tier. You have to put an S tier. Like these are, look, undeniably, these are the fucking best moments of his presidency. Like, there's just no other way to put it. The infamous Clinton and Trump exchange.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Again, I gotta put it in S tier. Okay, I have to put this. This might be the S tier of Donald Trump right here, because here's the whole and I wanted to mention this in when he announced for presidency too. I forgot about this point, but like this was a lot of the appeal for Trump is like he was he was able to admit like, yes, I have gone through the same loopholes that these politicians do, and it served me greatly, but it's we need to stop. Now, obviously he didn't fall through, like he didn't really, come through at that point. And I think that's really, been why me and others have really lost support for him over the years. But at the time it was such a good message. When you had just gotten done with, 8 years of Obama, you were looking at another, DNC, fueled government once again, raising taxes, creating useless government programs. He was the answer against this at the time, right? And this moment was just, I just remember like watching the whole debate and being like, oh God, like there were just so many moments in this that were just wild. And it's, again, like even in this like kind of closed section, because I remember later in this interview, or this debate, I should say, there was the one guy who, I don't remember what his name was, but like he had viral sensation. He was a viral sensation for a while, where he was this guy in a red sweater, and he was asking questions to Trump and Clinton. I don't remember exactly what happened with that, but like, the fact that like they actually like had people in the audience ask them questions, like that's just such a, like if you were to look at that compared to the last debate where there was literally no audience in attendance, like it's mind blowing. It's almost crazy to think that like that was actually how they were done back then. And I don't know if we will ever have them done like that again, which is unfortunate, I think. Okay, enough of the clips. Standing Rock, I'm putting it on a D tier. This was probably one of the worst things Trump's ever done in his 2 terms. And this was actually the moment that I personally lost all, like threw all my cards away for Trump. Like this, I really lost a lot of respect for him for this. Standing Rock was in South Dakota, in the Rapid City area. There was a water, I think it was a river, where the government wanted to put a pipeline through that was on native territory. The natives who, we, not essentially, but we stole a significant amount of their land. A majority of their land, really, almost all of it. And that little bit of land they had, we wanted to drill, put a pipeline through it. And there's a lot of reasonable objections to this. Mainly, they're going on their property, like basically just to save money. They wanted to just go through their property, right? If that happened to like any citizen of America and they protested, that they would have a right to do that, right? Same with the natives. And I think, I don't know if this was recent or if this happened shortly after, but I think there actually was leakage on this pipeline, and it actually did end up, damaging the water supply, which, that is a valid concern every time you have pipelines put in, right? So, and basically, they had been fighting, I think, for almost a year over this. They were literally getting into fist fights with police officers and other government official or forces or whatever. And they won. They won the battle, essentially. Like, literally a battle. Like, they were like, okay, we actually have put a stop to them putting this pipeline through. And the administration at the time, like Barack Obama, I think he acknowledged it at one point. The first day Trump gets into office, he just is like, no, fuck you. Basically, it literally just says fuck you, and is just okay, we're gonna put the pipeline through. So I that was the moment where I realized, oh, okay, this man, he's not draining the swamp. He's literally part of the machine like anyone else. So huge D tier for me on that. The next one, cutting PBS funding, S tier. Woo woo. Fuck PBS. Fuck the indoctrination channel, the the news indoctrination channel, the way we get kids to get vaccinated and all that bullshit, right? I remember when he cut this, like, and it was actually kind of interesting at the time. Like, this was before I was really libertarian. I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. Like, you know, like what? Trump's just gonna like get rid of all these fun kid shows and, you know, news, right? but then you fast forward like all these years later, it's like no, the kids don't even fucking do that anyways, right? Like they all have the internet and all these other companies. Like, you know, it's much better to have companies compete for that type of, you know, child public education type, or not public, like child geared education or TV programs or whatever. It's a way better system than just having it be on one singular channel. So the fact that he cut that, I mean, I love it. Like that was one of the few, I mean, it's, I know like in this grand scheme of things, it's really small, but like it was a really good step in my mind where it's like, okay, yeah, you know, we probably shouldn't have to pay for this shit. It's bull crap. Okay, the Charleston, his response to the Charleston, actually, before we even put it into here, let's just play the clip where he addressed, I don't have my glasses. I have my glasses on, so again. Okay, here we go.
You're putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
It's on both sides, sir. You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as you. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Who has treated unfairly, sir? I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly? No, I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this. There are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final? Does anybody have? You have an infrastructure.
What makes you think you can get an infrastructure bill? You didn't get health care.
Well, you know, I'll tell you. We came very close with health care. Unfortunately, John McCain decided to vote against it at the last minute. You'll have to ask John McCain why he did that. But we came very close to health care. We will end up getting health care. But we'll get the infrastructure, and actually, infrastructure is something that I think will have bipartisan support on. I actually think Democrats will go along with the infrastructure.
Okay. I'll throw in beats here. You know, here's the thing. I think if you actually watch this is one of the moments, like, just where the dishonesty of the media really started. Like, it was already there, but, like, this is when it really became blatant, where they literally just took out, like, 20 seconds of that clip, and they made it sound like he was supporting white supremacy. Like, to this day, you will meet people who still take away that from the clip. I mean, this was like 8 years ago, and people still, like, because people just don't care to inform themselves. Like, people still just think that, like, this, like, he was just supporting the white nationalists and the neo-Nazis and whatever. But he actually makes a pretty good point. Like, there are people on both sides that had good intentions and had bad intentions. It was a terrible thing. Look, I don't really care about, like, national monuments. Like, I actually do happen to think that, like, people like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, like, were over, like, I just got done reading this biography on George Washington. Like, despite the good things that they did do, like, overall, they were kind of pieces of shit. Like, they were, like, elitist types. They really believed that they were of a different fabric. Like, they really, truly believed that they were above other people. Jefferson, maybe not so much, but especially George Washington. And Robert E. Lee, obviously, I don't really, I guess, to be fair, I don't really know much about him. I haven't read on that subject personally, but everything I've gathered, yeah, he was not one of the best people. So, I mean, do I really care if statues are getting torn down? No, not really. But if you look at it from that perspective, you can kind of see where there would actually be, you know, some moderate viewpoints in that, where it's like, hey, you know, I understand that these people were bad people, but this is also part of our culture. And, you know, I think it is important to acknowledge, like, I don't know what the famous quote, I don't know exactly what the quote is, but, like, or if you erase history, well, not even if you erase it, but history tends to repeat itself. And I think when you do this woke wash crap, where you try to just wipe away history, it's going to have the opposite effect. So I think there's a very logical and morally just, stance on that, to be able to say, hey, you know what, maybe it's not really great to be doing this. Okay, the border conflict. I'll get put in C tier. Why not? Definitely not my favorite. I don't think it's quite as bad as Standing Rock, but the border stuff, I'm not. Here's my position on the border stuff. And I've talked about this on a couple of podcasts, but because, you know, being an anarcho-capitalist, I do a lot of times, as an anarcho-capitalist, I do a lot of times find that other libertarians and anarcho-capitalist types will support borders, will support mass deportations. And I can understand it to a point where it's like, okay, people have been just kind of let in willy-nilly. They don't have to pay taxes, whatever, and that's unfair. And I can wrap my head around that. However, I think to have a pro-border stance is just, you're still giving that credit to the system. So, I mean, if you are an anarchist, if you are an anarcho-capitalist and you support the border stuff, I mean, by that logic, you might as well just support government. Because if you're going to say, oh, hey, this thing is not perfect, but we still need it because of X, Y, Z, that is the logic of government. That has always been, like, you talk to people who are pro-government, that's what they say all the time. They're like, yeah, it doesn't work perfectly, but it's still for the best. And look, I believe at the end of the day, if you want to really have good conversations about security and, really trying to protect yourself from outside forces, I think it would be far better of an approach to, eliminate taxes so people can better arm themselves, better defend themselves, their businesses, their homes. I think that's such a better and more morally just way of going about this. Because what's the inverse, right? What's the opposite? You have what's happening now and we're gonna get into this later with the ICE stuff, but you have what's happening now where you have ICE, you have police taking people who, are just in this country, who are not necessarily gang affiliated or doing violent things. They're doing the same thing that everyday Americans are doing. They work at a business, they provide a service, they make money, and then they disperse that money back out into the public. Yes, I know there are a lot of times where they will send money to family, and I get that, right? But if I have family, extended family in England, right? If I decide to give them a check, nobody would really care about that. But if a grandmother in Mexico wants to give her son, or a grandmother in America wants to give her grandkid or their kid money in Mexico, that's suddenly a problem, right? I guess my point is you are focusing on the wrong part of the problem. You're giving into the solution where hey, we just need to spend millions, billions of taxpayer dollars on this huge wall that didn't even get finished, by the way, and probably never will be finished. That's the funny thing about this whole thing with Trump, right? He's talking about the ICE and the mass deportations, has not once mentioned the wall because he knows it was such a failure, it was such an L, and that nobody really actually wants it anymore. So, yeah, I put that in C tier. Okay, economy. I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier because here's the thing about Trump and the economy. And I just decided to kind of put this in for, let's just look at both terms, right? First term before COVID, I think the economy was better under Trump. I think that's undeniable, really. People who say otherwise, I'm just were you even existing? It really was good until COVID happened. And then, Trump, instead of doing the right thing in that, and we'll get into that later, but instead of doing the right thing in that, he shut everything down, he started printing money, and he basically, the economy that he improved under his administration, it just completely reversed and just fucked it all up. And, you look at his first 100 days, and there have not really been a lot of economic growths. I mean, his only solution thus far has been tariffs, which is just a terrible solution. He talked about getting rid of the income tax. He hasn't done that. There seems to be no steps towards doing that. I think when he first got into office, he really did do things like cut government spending. He really did do things that did actually put more money in people's pockets. He did open up, certain jobs, a lot of these DNC restrictions that were put on jobs for environmental quote unquote reasons, right? He did lift a lot of that, and therefore people were able to make jobs. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, I'd rather have people have jobs and have the environment go to shit than the other way, because people are going to be if you just focus on the environmental stuff and you take away people's jobs, people are going to starve and die right now. This whole thing in the future, it doesn't matter if people are starving and dying right now. So I think it was really good in that. But, if you look at the last, his first 100 days in office, he just has not really done a lot. And the whole thing with COVID, I mean, that's kind of a whole other category itself. But the whole thing with COVID, he really fucked that up. So I put the economy in B tier. All right. Bombing Yemen, D tier. I don't even really know what else. There isn't really much to even say about that. No, it's just not okay for him to just drop bombs on Yemen. It's the same thing every president does, right? I won't lie. I'm not necessarily educated on that whole thing with Yemen. I'm right now. I'm kind of listening to the Daryl Cooper stuff, the Fear and Loathing Jerusalem, and trying to learn a little bit about the Middle East type of stuff. But also, being an anarchist, I only care so much about it. So all I know is that governments dropping bombs on civilians is not good. And you can't tell me otherwise. So yeah, D tier. Okay, Trump and Kim Jong-un's stuff. Yeah. Look, I'll just do these both right now. I'll put Kim Jong-un and Putin in A tier. And I know people are going to raise a lot of eyebrows, be like, what the fuck, Coleman? Why are you in support of Donald Trump discussing things with these dictators, being friends with these dictators, right? And there is, I can wrap my head around the idea of like, yes, these are evil people and you should protest them. But at the same time, you have to understand that when he is like actually interacting with these other leaders, it is a more peaceful solution. Like, I think there's a reason why after Trump went out of office that the Ukraine war started. And like why it didn't start during Trump's presidency, because he was actually talking to these other world leaders. And look, I mean, talking to your enemy is a really hard thing to do. But if talking to your enemy is going to result in more lives being saved, better livelihoods for everyone, then I mean, look, yes, these dictators, I mean, they are dictators. They're going to continue to run their country the way they do, and people are going to die under that, right? That's still far better than war. War just multiplies that death. I mean, every time. So, look, I think that was the better solution, to talk with those dictators. So, yeah, I'm going to put that in A tier. I stand by that. And the Paris Climate Accord, S tier, for sure. Yes, I thought even at the time, like, it was stupid for us to put all these restrictions on manufacturing that was going to cost American jobs, that was going to just make things worse for America for a 2%, for like a 2% benefit or whatever they calculated, right? And look, America was disproportionately affected in that, right? Because we are the richer and bigger country. So, with any conflict or any situation, we're always just expected to put more in, right? And Trump was the only president probably who was actually able to say, yeah, no, we're not doing that. And he stuck to his guns on that. And look, I think I'm against government spending. I'm against the government getting involved in the market and taking away jobs. So yes, I think this was a good thing, 100%. I put that in S tier. Okay, Dr. Fauci, D tier for the Donald. D for Donald. Yeah, I mean, do I even have to say how bad of a fucking pick this was? For health, the Department of Health or whatever the fuck he even was. I know it makes me sound really educated, right? But look, I mean, this is the man who. If you guys have ever seen the movie Dallas Buyers Club, I'm blanking on the name, but there was this in the movie. There was this medicine that was being passed around in the AIDS crisis, and it was actually making people. It was Enzio, maybe, I don't remember. It was actually making people sicker. And this was like a thing in the movie that was like Matthew McConaughey's character was like protesting, saying, "Hey, no, this thing's bad." AZT, that was what it was. This thing's bad. I have AIDS. Don't put this in my body. He was giving out literature. Very eerily similar to COVID. The government like came in and pressed charges and really tried to intervene in his protest of that. Right? Guess who was at cause of that? This man, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who shouldn't be a doctor, let's be real. And he did the exact same thing with the COVID virus. Because all he cares about is his dollar line, his bottom dollar. This is also a man who has, well, I actually can't remember if Biden pardoned him or not. So maybe that was why he wasn't able to get any charges against him. But like, look, Donald Trump did pick this person, and then he continued, like, in his presidency, he allowed this person to carry out all the COVID bullshit. And it was a disaster. And, you know, people can blame the whole Fauci thing on the Biden administration. They really like to do that. But look, this was Trump's fault. Okay. It just simply was. Okay. Stimmy checks, D tier. Boo. Stimmy checks. We are still to this day suffering from the economic disaster that the stimulus checks were. Something that Trump started and the Biden administration just doubled down on. The idea of printing money to quote unquote help people through this government lockdown that they've enforced. And look, in the short term, people really liked it. I remember people were like, yeah, I'm going to buy this, going to buy that. To this day, you will still talk to people and they'll be like asking for a stimulus check, and it's retarded. I'm like, do you guys see how expensive eggs are? Like, do you have any idea why that's the case? It's because of the same goddamn thing. Like, and that's just how humans are. That's how people are. They want the short term. And the stimulus checks really fed that thing. And like it to this day, like, has secured a lot of support for Trump because he did that. But it's moronic because it's like it just increased the price of everything. It's just stupid. Not to mention, it was like the biggest transfer of wealth from the rich to the poor to the rich. Like, all these corporations got like all these fucking welfare checks and write-offs and all this shit, and these mom and pop stores are closing down because they can't compete. Like, it was just such a dog shit thing that happened. So yeah, boo the stimmy checks. S tier for sure. Or wow, not S tier, D tier. Okay, now let's just this clip when Donald Trump returned to the office after getting sick with COVID. Now, before we start, one of the things that I found, this isn't even really Trump as much as just like America at the time. I remember losing so much respect for people who were hoping that this man would die. We're hoping that he would die. Look, Joe Biden is like an evil human being. He did terrible things to his daughter. We have records of this from her diary that was legitimized by the FBI and herself. Like he, the drug wars and everything he did under Obama, like all this bullshit. Like, Joe Biden is an awful human being. I would never wish him death. I think that's just one of the most evil things that person can do, is wish someone death. I think, if someone dies and you're like, okay, maybe this wasn't the worst thing in the world, that's a completely different story. But like, to just say like, I really hope that he dies. The same people, by the way, who were like so hyper crazy about this COVID stuff, all triple masking, right? They were so worried about spreading it, so worried about killing their grandma. But when it comes to Donald Trump, we hope he dies. It's just so twisted and evil. And shame on those people. Shame on those. There are people who has said that to this day who I just refuse to talk to, because I'm like, it's moments like these where the people in your life really reveal themselves to be a certain way. It's like, oh, you truly have no moral backbone. You are literally just a self-serving cunt. That's all you are. And this was one of the moments. I mean, this is, I guess, not really on Trump, but I just wanted to mention that. Like, I remember this like so vividly. Like, this was one of the moments where I just lost so much respect for people. But anyways, let's watch this stupid clip. So he gets off masked. Everybody's masked, right? Oh my God. It gives you PTSD watching all this. And he's like, I think this really helped, and this was obviously super dramatic. A super dramatic televised moment, right? But
I just left Walter Reed Medical Center, and it's really something very special. The doctors, the nurses, the first responders, and I learned so much about coronavirus. And one thing that's for certain, don't let it dominate you. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to beat it. We have the best medical equipment. We have the best medicines, all developed recently. And you're going to beat it. I didn't feel so good. And 2 days ago, I could have left 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I felt great, like better than I have in a long time. I said just recently, better than 20 years ago. Don't let it dominate. Don't let it take over your lives. Don't let that happen. We have the greatest country in the world. We're going back to work. We're going to be out front. As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did. And I know there's a risk, there's a danger, but that's okay. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune. I don't know. But don't let it dominate your lives. Get out there. Be careful. We have the best medicines in the world, and it all happened very shortly, and they're all getting approved, and the vaccines are coming momentarily. Thank you very much. And Walter Reed, what a group of people.
Okay. I'll go ahead and put it in B tier. Because, look, I mean, I think it was very, like, overall, I actually do appreciate that message, where it was like, we need to get over this, we need to go back to work. Like, even though, ironically, he was the person that started these lockdowns in the first place, and there's hypocrisy in that, I do think that was a good message, to just say, hey, we need to get over this bullshit. Something like, to this day, you still see people wearing masks in public, and I'm like, maybe it's just because they have a cold and they want to be cautious. Like, if that's the case, I commend them. But that's kind of the problem with it too, right? Is like, because there was this mass hysteria over the masks, like, you can never tell, like, oh, is this person like actually caring, or are they just kind of buying into the propaganda? I was somebody who never got vaccinated, not because I was super against it, but not even because like I was radically like protesting. I was in a workplace at the time that didn't require it. I had a job where I was working by myself. I was not around people. I think the only times during that whole like year and a half or whatever, I think the only times I was really ever around large groups of people was in grocery stores. Like, I never went, like, I didn't go to parties, I didn't go to concerts, none of that. So it just wasn't, something I really like, and I remember like when COVID first hit, like, I was terrified. Like, it really seemed like, oh, this is like something out of a movie, of a science fiction book. Like, I remember watching the movie Contagion when I was, I think, 16. I went to go to the theater and go see that, and it terrified me. That movie scared the shit out of me. And I literally thought that, like, this is going to be Contagion. Thankfully, it was not. It just wasn't as bad as we thought it was. Now, he did, like, but I think he really gave way too much credit to like the COVID technology and all that, because as we know now years later that the vaccine wasn't even a vaccine, it was mRNA technology. Essentially it just changed your gene code to quote unquote help the virus, right? And it didn't even do that. I mean, people I know who are vaccinated, they like still get COVID. I got COVID one time, and it was pretty awful for like a day, maybe two. But then like after 3 days, I went back to work because I was like, I feel fine. And I know people now who like get COVID and like they are like dying from it still. And I can't help but wonder, like, is that just because of that they got technology injected to them multiple times that changed their gene coding and made them even more susceptible of this virus? I think there's a lot of data for that. Okay, January 6th. Before you watch the clip, I'm just going to put it in C tier. I don't really believe in the whole danger of the insurrection or whatever, right? It's interesting. I'm reading this book called Empire of Liberty by George S. Wood. And in that book, he talks about the Whiskey Rebellion, and that was like considered like the first insurrection of the in U.S. history, and it was because a bunch of people in the Northwest, and I think maybe Pennsylvania, created whiskey. I mean, they produced whiskey, right? And they were objecting to the taxes that were put on them. And what did the government do? They put, at the time, the largest U.S. military force, larger than any military force that had been put together in the Revolutionary War, just to basically bring a show of force to these people, like, hey, you will pay taxes. And I think out of everyone, I think 2 people got arrested, and then they were pardoned, which I think was like a noble, as noble as you could be for George Washington in that time. Like, even though he did like, incentive, like, create this whole thing with the taxes, he was able to then say, like, okay, like, we're not gonna accuse you of treason or anything like that. Like, we're just gonna dismiss you the charge or whatever. Flash forward to 2021, beginning of 2021, where you have a group of people who are understandably upset because they felt like this election was done in bad faith. I think there's a lot of evidence for that. You look at early voting, you look at the amount of dead people who voted. Like, even if I don't think, like, and I don't even really know if that was what made Trump lose, as much as just like the media messaging and just the mass censorship that was done in the corporate media that, like, just allowed Joe Biden to become president. And I think a lot of people were understandably upset by that, and they went into the Capitol and did this. But the fact is, despite all the pictures you see and all the coverage and everything, like, there's plenty of security footage of cops actually opening the gates, escorting people into the building, even giving them a lot of them like a tour. Like, people were like taking pictures and they actually thought it was really cool, right? And then they just ended up throwing all these people in jail. I mean, I think very few of the people who went into that Capitol actually had violent intention, and even the ones that did, like, I don't think they actually committed any violence. I think, I could be wrong, but I think the only people that died were people who went into the Capitol, right? And also, I just don't really care if people break into a building that's funded by stolen money. Like, I just don't give a shit. So yeah, but look, I mean, it wasn't like a great thing, right? Like, I remember watching it and being just kind of shocked and horrified, like, almost like, oh, this is kind of where we're at in our country, right? Honestly, let's just watch this clip. And this took me forever to, like, YouTube buried this, and you can even see, like, it's hard to even watch because of the stuff. But let's just play this. I think this is important for people to watch, because I think a lot of people kind of just think that Trump told people to go march and do this violent stuff, and that's really not what happened. So let's just play this.
It's up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections.
Okay.
I know that everyone here will soon.
Yeah, I mean, look, he clearly said peacefully. Now, I think I remember the time there were 2 million people at that speech, and then like a very small fraction of them actually went and did that. So, I mean, look, you're always going to find idiots in a crowd who are going to take what somebody says and go to the extreme with it, right? But I don't buy into the whole thing where it was like Trump sent these people to go do that violently, right? If that were the case, I'd be putting this in D tier for sure. Because I mean, that's not good. But yeah, I don't really. I look. I don't think it was like necessarily the best thing to do. Like even to like make a to march like that. Like I don't know. I think it's just kind of a weird thing to do. So it's definitely not the best thing he did, but I don't think it's like as horrendous as people make out to be. All right. Now something interesting. Right after this speech, he made another speech where it was, to be fair, it sounded like he basically had a gun to his head. But I'm just going to put this in detail right off the bat. The speech right after this has happened January 7th, where he essentially threw his entire base under the bus. And if I can even find the clip. Did I not download the clip? We'll just play it on YouTube,
I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders. America is and must always be a nation of law and order. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. We have just been through an intense election and emotions are high, but now tempers must be cooled and calm restored. We must get on with the business of America. My campaign vigorously pursued every legal avenue to contest the election results. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. In so doing, I was fighting to defend American democracy. I continue to strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters and to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections. Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power. This moment calls for healing and reconciliation. 2020 has been a challenging time for our people. A menacing pandemic has upended the lives of our citizens, isolated millions in their homes, damaged our economy, and claimed countless lives. Defeating this pandemic and rebuilding the greatest economy on earth will require all of us working together. It will require a renewed emphasis on the civic values of patriotism, faith, charity, community, and family. We must revitalize the sacred bonds of love and loyalty that bind us together as one national family. To the citizens of our country, serving as your president has been the honor of my lifetime. And to all of my wonderful supporters, I know you are disappointed, but I also want you to know that our incredible journey is only just beginning. Thank you, God bless you, and
okay. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was like, you broke the law and you will pay. I find that so, I mean, what, you entered a government building that was a big no, that like people said, no. And that's justifiable for everything that happened. Like, no, I just don't believe that. So yeah, that was a big L from him. Okay, the Stormy Daniels shit. Oh, I gotta put an S tier. I gotta put an S tier. The man fucked a porn star. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care if he paid off a porn star to shut the fuck up. He fucked a porn star, man. No, I wish I could put that in A tier because that's not that. I'm not going to give him that much credit. Okay, this moment with Biden. Now that I have to put in S tier. Let's watch this clip. Just how he handled the Biden debate And not even really how he handled, like, he didn't even really do that great of a job. But like, actually, this was the second debate, wasn't it? I don't even remember. I don't remember if it was how many he did. I don't remember if he did one or two, but one of the debates I knew he fucking, like, if he had just shut the fuck up, he would have done way better. But like, this moment was just very revealing.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
His face at that. Biden's face at that is one of the most. I mean, look, this was probably one of the last Trump moments where it's like you see in the other moments in S tier where he literally just had like his comedic flair. Like, this was one of the last moments to this day where he's really had that. Like, it was just like people have talked about before. Like, he's like a fucking comedian basically. He's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck he said. Okay, and let's watch this other clip. This is from the Trump and Harris debate where he kind of went off on his crowd sizes. I think this was one of his bigger L's. So let's play this.
There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
She just looks like a bitch.
And then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States.
Okay, that clip actually didn't really do it justice. But yeah, I'm gonna put this in C tier. This was the L for Trump. Like, I just don't understand why. I mean, I do understand because he has an ego, but like, this was just such a bait and switch for for Kamala. This was just a total bait question to be like, oh hey, and the clip almost like intentionally like cut his rant about the crowd sizes down, but like he ate up all of his time just talking about the crowd sizes, and he wasn't even able to get his point out. And I mean, I think this moment just showed his ego, how egotistical this man is, how unable he is to like have a real worldview because he's so entranced by himself. Okay, honestly, we've already been going a long time, so I'm not even going to play the clip. But his podcast run where he went on Joe Rogan, he went on Theo Vaughn, he went on. He did the Nelk Boys a couple times, different times, but I'm gonna put them. Actually, yeah, we'll put it in B tier. No, let's put it in A tier. Just for the fact that it was like, in terms of strategy, it was a very effective strategy to go on these podcasts to really recognize, okay, we need to take the new media and we need to do with this. We need to really hone in on this and really proponent it, right? I think this was huge. I think this was it was just him being in tune with what the American people want. And that is something like that he has been okay on. I'm not going to say great on. He's been okay on. There have been moments during his last run, the last 9-10 years, where he has really been able to tune into what people in America want. He's done a far better job of that than the Democratic Party. Now, he doesn't always act on it, obviously, but he does at least have that sense. Okay. The election, I'll put it in B tier, just the election results. The fact that he won I guess this is, I didn't really talk about the other two elections, but specifically this last election, I'll put it in B tier. He did win the popular vote. He did. Part of it, I think, was because just the DNC just had an awful candidate. I mean, both times, both people that they put up were just awful. But like, he really did pull that off. And I mean, anytime anybody wins a presidency, except in the case of Joe Biden or, some other people, it is impressive to see them get that. So hands down to that. All right, Doge and Elon, I'm going to put it S tier because I thought, as much as I hate government programs, this was almost like an anti-government program, right? It was almost like the idea, it's almost like the minarchist idea put into practice, where you're like, okay, we're gonna use government to clean up government and to really scale back government. Now, let's bring this down to A tier, because he hasn't actually sold it on this. He hasn't actually sold it. It was something that was really popular and really strong, and then it kind of just faltered away. Elon Musk dropped out, and that all happened, and it really lost a lot of steam in that sense. So yeah, we're gonna just keep that in A tier. Okay, cutting the Department of Education, S tier, baby. Yes, got that shit. Get the fuck out of here. I've talked about it so many different times, so I won't even go into it too much, but such a waste of taxpayer dollars going to the education system. What I'm using right now to do this podcast will defeat an entire building, an entire school, an entire district of educators. It just does not compare. The model of education is just so obsolete in this current world. When you need to learn when you need to find something information out, you don't go sign up for a class. You go on your phone and you look it up. And people think that's lazy or something for some reason, but it's not. I mean, that's just normal. That's what you need. Okay, I'm sorry. We're going a little long. We're going to try to breeze through the next couple of these, but honestly, we'll just put the whole ICE deportation thing in D tier. I think I already talked about that enough. The border, I feel like was a little more sensible because it was at least preventing people from coming in. I can at least back that up. But the whole idea of taking out people who are against, Israel, or just people who are just affiliated or a certain skin tone, just mass deporting them without any due process. Yeah, that's awful. The Gulf of America, we'll put in B tier. I just don't really care. I think it's honestly pretty hilarious. There's actually some comedic where it's just I don't know. On either side, the fact that anybody actually even cares about that is just wild. Okay, the Trump. I don't think I downloaded that either. I took an L on these clips, and I think I forgot to do the Trump win. That's okay. All right, Trump and Zelensky. We'll put that in C tier. Again, I just don't really care. It was kind of just. We'll put it in B tier because it was a real show of force in his right. He was really able to just sit down and just say hey, this is what's really happening. You really want us to work with you. You got to be able to do this. The fact that he's even having these talks, this was something that Joe Biden would have never done. This is something Kamala Harris would have never done. The fact that he's actually willing to talk and say hey, we need to actually make some progress towards this. That being said, nothing has really, and we might as well just throw up the Ukraine war. Well, we're going to put the Ukraine war in the D category for sure. Because he hasn't really stopped it. And we'll put it in C because he has done at least a little bit, but he hasn't. I mean, he had these talks with Zelensky. He said we were going to end it in one day. Ukraine war still going on. Okay, Jeff Epstein and JFK files, D tier. The man, he said he was going to do this. He has not delivered. There's still plenty of names not said, and we don't really know much else. Even though he said he was going to do that for various obvious reasons. I think this is one of the most damning things about Trump is that he was such close friends with Jeff Epstein. There's so many different pictures of him. He was probably on those fucking flights. Would not surprise me if the man was a pedophile. That's one of the most distasteful things about Trump, period. And the fact that he didn't release this proper information is not surprising. Okay, the whole Gaza situation, we're going to put that again in D tier. Look, I think this second term he's really fumbled. He really had an opportunity to turn things around. In the first couple weeks, it really seemed like he was going to do that with the Doge stuff and the cutting the Department of Education. But he seems to have completely reversed course. Even before he became the second term president, he was always talking about being in support of Israel, and the whole conflict of Gaza, which, I mean, just the leveling of Gaza that the IDF has done is just, it's inexcusable. And the fact that he or anyone else is still not only excusing that, but like actually, you know, proponing it, right? Like, it's just disgusting and awful. And the comments that he's made about, you know, wanting to make it like a new, basically like he wants to make it a new city, like a new grand, he even shared like the AI video. I find that very disturbing. So D tier for sure. Yeah, this is really gonna even things out. I feel like the first part of this was like there were a lot of like S tier, A tier moments, and then like throughout this thing here, we've just gone like, yeah, no, he's taking a lot of L's. The tariff shit, awful. I mean, tariffs are just taxes. I'm against taxes, and it doesn't seem like it, you know, if this actually comes through, it doesn't seem like it's actually going to help anything. It's just going to make things more expensive for American consumers. Look, I mean, there's a reason that we buy everything from these companies, or these countries, I should say. And it's not necessarily because we don't have the capacity or we can't do it. I mean, I guess part of that, or I should say like that, like it's all just like these business, like going for where it's cheaper. I mean, that is part of it, I guess. But like, the solution is not we're going to tax the fuck out of these countries and then force the industry into America. Because here's the thing. If America, I could at least wrap my head around the concept if like America had all these industries like ready to go. Like, hey, we're ready to go on this. We're ready to make things cheaper, you know, make things and have them be cheaper or whatever. But all these companies are just going through these. Like, I can at least wrap my head around that. But that's not even the case. Like, the reason that I can do a podcast is because of China, because China has an immense force of products being put out. And that's not a bad thing. Like, we all, like, this is just my whole thing about capitalism in general and free markets in general. Like, everybody profits from that. Everybody is much better off because we can get a shirt from China that's cheap versus having to pay 3 times more in America and not being able to eat or whatever, right? Like, it's better for everyone. It's not just like that these business interests are getting a bunch of money. Yes, that's true, but it's also helping people. And the inverse of that is just going to be catastrophic. Like, taxing other countries is not the way to fix your economy. If you want to, you know, cut income tax, if you want to cut government spending, like, those are way better solutions than just putting more government shit on, basically. Okay, we're almost done here. The Trump MS-13 total D tier. Look, I mean, whether or not the image is photoshopped or not, I got in a bunch of heat for this clip on the Unhinged, but I'll stand by it. I don't think having gang tattoos or being affiliated with a gang necessarily makes you a bad person. I think it's just stupid. If you're gonna make that claim, then Donald Trump should be shot in the head or deported by that logic, or any government official should be, because if we're gonna treat this gang like this, then we better treat the biggest gang in the world, which is the United States of America, the same way. But no, for some reason, when it's the U.S. gang of America, it's okay. When it's the biggest gang, it's okay. When it's a smaller gang, we need to treat them indiscriminately. We need to not give them any due process, and we need to just kick them the fuck out. Or not even kick them out, like put them in an El Salvador concentration camp, essentially. And, you know, those satellite images where there may be mass deaths happening, mass slaughterings happening, right? Like, we don't even know. We don't even know in this day and age with what's happening with that. So, total L for Trump. And I remember watching a clip of him getting pushed back on that, and he just acted very childish. I felt like it was the transformation in Trump has really shown its true faces. Last one, Donald Trump falling asleep at the Pope funeral. I put that in C tier. I don't really care about him falling asleep. I don't really care about him wearing a blue suit. I grew up Catholic. Those Catholics have a way of making that shit boring as fuck. I think the reason that this is most hypocritical, however, is because he hammered Joe Biden so much, calling him Sleepy Joe, which was accurate. But he hammered him so much to the point where it just when you see this, it's like you're such a hypocrite. And look, I think his first 100 days, kind of wrapping all this up, like I think his first 100 days have really been a show of that, how hypocritical this man is. How when he started, he was really going to drain the swamp. He was really going to help the American people. Fast forward 9 years, 10 years, he has not done that. He is, and it looks like he's making it even worse. Continuing to send money to Ukraine and Israel, this thing with the tariffs, the mass deportations, none of this, which, also cost taxpayer money, none of this is indicative of draining the swamp. If anything, he is enforcing the swamp.